Hey, what's up, comrades? It's time. Dun 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 dun. Wah, wah. Oh Lord, it is fucking early. Um, I here's my I'm gonna do the 5 worst things that I played this year and that I put videos up for. So there's a lot of stuff I played this year. There's a lot of stuff I read, a lot of stuff. You know, if you watch my channel at all, you see I post. I do the game reviews on Monday. I do like alt media, which is like books I've read or movies or anime and stuff on Tuesday, and then new comics on Wednesday. Right now I'm just doing X-Men. I'm getting a bunch of Fairy Tail manga for. I'm getting like the first half, like the first 33 volumes for Christmas. So I'll probably start reviewing that as well and just do that and X-Men, go back and forth. I apologize, I'm a little stuffy when I'm doing this. It's the end of December and life's good, except for this fucking thing I gotta do right now. Anyway, this will go up in January. So the rules for me are I have to have had posted the video about the said items this current in 2024. So there's stuff in 2025 that it's gonna go like reviews and stuff that I've already played and completed. They're just like set up to kick in whenever. But I gotta when you see this video in the first week in January is when it's going up. Everything you'll be able to go back and see any of my reviews or anything. So I'm not going to spend an exorbitant amount of time. I'm just going to explain why they're on my worst list, and then next week they'll be the best of list, and we'll go from there. I have some exciting news for me, as I'm sure I am the only one who consistently listens to all my stuff, which is fun. I gotta say, I'm not gonna lie, because I do this purely because I enjoy doing it. And it's super interesting sometimes to go back and watch or listen to myself talk about stuff that I had forgotten I'd even played like months later, and I'm like, oh yeah, fuck that game, or you're like, oh man, that was awesome, I do remember that. So it's good stuff. Anyway, let's get started. This video is going to be slightly more produced. There should be little cards in between each one, so we'll see how that goes. And you can all join me on my adventure to slightly increase my professionalism on these fucking videos. All right. Number 5. All right. So the 5th worst thing that I was involved with, and honestly the worst thing that I forced myself to watch all year, was Wizards. Now, Wizards is it's an animated movie that came out in like the 60s, I want to say. You can go see my video. It posted sometime in and around like the fall, September to October timeframe. I don't remember exactly when it went up, but here's the thing about it. I didn't watch bad stuff this year, like, at all. Even when I like had to go see like Inside Out with my kid, Inside Out 2, that was fine. Like, I honestly have no beef with it whatsoever. Like, it was like, it's a little exaggerating here when it talks about anxiety. Like, yeah, okay, it's a little much. But generally, it's like a cute kids movie, and there's nothing really that offensive. It's just like some girl going through puberty, and it was like super hyper puberty because everything hit her like immediately as soon as she turned like 13 and stuff. But aside from that, it's like the animation was good. Her like little panic attack was excellently drawn and whatnot. But this is not about Inside Out 2. Everything else I watched is pretty good. So Wizards, while I did enjoy it, I don't think it's bad by any stretch of imagination. When I'm just considering like all the stuff I indulge myself in, and I screen a lot of shit, right? So I'm not just like watching stuff willy-nilly. Like, I'm not gonna go watch no fucking Acolyte or whatever fucking dudes torture themselves with. I'm like, oh, this looks good, or like, I know this guy, oh, this is a guy. Like, the Wizards is so if you ever look up like the animated Lord of the Rings or Hobbit movies, this is I don't know if he did the Hobbit. I know he for sure did Lord of the Rings. So that's where I'm coming from. Like, oh, that Lord of the Rings guy made like more animated stuff. That's cool. And so, quick recap: Wizards is just like, it's like a weird fever dream with like lots of Nazi symbolism for the bad guy as like a shortcut to express that like they are evil and any negative stuff done towards them is justified. But it meanders a lot, and it's definitely not a cartoon for kids. Like, and I watch a lot of stuff that's not cartoon for kids, but this is like, I would not watch this with my kids around. And the thing is, it's not that violent per se. It's just like bizarre, and yeah. So definitely the worst thing I'd watched all year, and definitely one of the five worst things that I indulged in. But honestly, it just made me happy thinking about it when I was going through I was looking through the. I use YouTube because YouTube very conveniently like stacks everything up by date if I ask it to for everything I posted all year. Well, BitChute and Rumble, it's like you got to dig through and like look at dates. So thank you, YouTube. You do a couple things right, and I appreciate that. But yeah, after going through everything, I was like, wow, I really had a pretty good year of like entertainment. Like, there's not that much stuff that was terrible. Which leads us into number 4. Number 4, the Selection Series. So the Selection Series is the worst thing I read all year, and I read a lot. And honest to God, it's not that bad. So once again, just like Wizards, I find myself being like, oh damn, like I had a pretty good year. So what is Selection? The Selection, you got to go way back. I think in February even, or March, is when I was reading through this series. And it's a series. There's a trilogy, and then there's like a follow-on duology. And I read the first book in the duology, and then I either like the audiobook I was listening to stopped working, or like the follow-on didn't work at all, and I was just like, fuck it. Because it's really not that good. It's fine. It is not made for me at all. It is like a young woman's book series about a girl in like one of those weird post-apocalyptic societies that is not really fully fleshed out, and honestly doesn't seem that bad, but it is bad because there's caste system, and caste systems are bad, even though caste systems were used for thousands of years by various organizations that like invented everything, including the alphabet. Whatever. Don't worry about it. They're bad now because we know they're bad because we live in America in 2024. That's why they're bad. Okay, got it. Jesus. Anyway, it's not all bad though, because I guess like you can be volunteered to like meet with the prince and marry him, and then your whole family will be raised up in a caste. And if you go do like what's that fucking show? Not American Idol. The Bachelor. If you go do The Bachelor, you get raised up to level 3 from level whatever. And like, so America, that's her name. The main character. Her she gets like raised up, and then of course there's like rebels, and of course there's like counter rebels, and then of course she actually falls in love with the prince, and he falls in love with her, and then they have, and then everyone, wins at the end of the day, and everyone's happy, even though she was not a noble household, but then she got raised up, yada, yada, yada. And then the sequel is about their daughter, and how she's already like a princess, and then how she deals with stuff, I guess. And then she has like the same experience, but it's like The Bachelorette. If any of that sounds terrible to you, then yeah, no surprises. I found it pretty entertaining because it was bad. So it was like hilariously bad in a lot of ways. Like I was like, this is so dumb. Like, who the fuck is this? But if I don't know if I'd recommend it to anybody, to be completely honest. The thing is, it's not bad. It's like the story makes sense. It's stupid. It's a lot of contrivances and stuff. But if we're talking about like literature written for like preteen to like teen girls, I'm like, there's a lot worse shit out there. Like a lot of like rapey stuff, and a lot of like everything's focused on sex, and then like girl boss, like extreme, like girl bossing it right into the fucking sun. This is none of that. Like America here, she's got flaws. She's almost perfect, but she still has like a few quibbles. She's not always right about everything, and then there is some struggle. And I've seen some of this shit where there is like the struggle is like half-hearted at best by the authors. So, again, it's like if I walked in and my daughter was reading The Selection, I would not be like, what the fuck is this? I would just be like, I read that once. I did not like it. Or something. It's just like whatever. It's fine. Dun, 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 dun. Number 3. Now we're getting into stuff that is actually bad, that I actually did not enjoy. And like recalling it or thinking about it, I was like, ugh, the game was kind of bad. And that is, unfortunately, a game I remember fondly from my childhood, a game series, 2 of them, called Warwind. So Warwind and Warwind 2. What is the problem with Warwind and Warwind 2? They are not enjoyable to play at all. And it's not because they're old. It partially is, but I like older games. I literally played through the Command & Conquer series a couple years ago. I've played Warcraft 1, like, recently, like within the last 5 years. On the computer, no updates, no mods, not this new thing that Blizzard's doing or whatever. That I've heard they're like redoing at least the Warcraft 2, I think. I just straight up played through it. No problems. understood everything. Everything made sense. It was simple, straightforward. You just did it, knocked it out. It was good stuff. Morrowind has so many like bullshit things going on that at the end of the day are kind of irrelevant. And then they're not when they're not. Like, I would have like a force of guys that I upgraded, and there's so many different kind of upgrades, and they're so like it's like you have to upgrade each character individually for each ability, and you have to find certain stuff, and it's like, and the whole time the enemy is just kind of sending like waves of dudes at you until they run out of waves of dudes because they don't produce more, and that's it. And so the whole thing is like janky as fuck, and it's like it's one of those things where it's like you just have to like understand how the map is set up, and once you do, it's hilariously easy. But until that point, it's like ridiculous because you'll just like wander in somewhere with like a massive force, and then they'll like all die. And then you have a hero character, which is very unique and interesting, especially for like this era. But it's so bad because if the hero character dies, you lose, and so you essentially have to like hoard your hero character somewhere, and like you can put them in buildings and stuff. That's the thing. It's like for the time the game came out, it's like this is a lot of like interesting stuff that was going on, and some of this stuff would be interesting if they like did it well and like carried it forward, but they did not do it well. And then the different factions are like not really that much different, to be completely honest. Even in the second one's almost worse. Like the first one is just like, okay, you're just like stumbling along and doing stuff, and you're like, oh, this is like giving me a headache. And there are literally levels where it's like I won the level, but then there's like it does that thing, and some of these old like Warcraft 2 was nefarious for, and it's like, all right, kill everybody, and you kill everybody, and even StarCraft before they like remastered it or whatever, it's like you kill everybody in a map, and you're just like, okay, so then you have to scourge the whole map or scour the whole map to try to find like the one peon that's just like under a tree somewhere, and you're like, God, this is awful. But and even when I was playing like old school StarCraft, I mean the levels had different quests, or even Warcraft and Warcraft 2. But Morrowind, it's like almost every level is like this. And Morrowind 2 does a better job, but at the same time, it's like some of these things are like, hey, you have to take this character and sneak him across this map, and it's like you have to you have to like save scum essentially to be successful at this, or just keep playing the map over and over and over again. And the thing is that this shit does like not work on modern systems, and so I had to find all these like janky ways to like make it work. And then it would still like crash out anytime I tried to like save or load a save or anything. And so it was just so fucking tedious to get through. And I did, but I cheated real hard because it was like the only way. And it's one of those things where it's like, I didn't need to cheat. I just needed to be able to like load a save. So it's like, all right, I'm going to go into this battle. I have no fucking clue how it's going to go. So I'm going to save. And then when I die, I'll be like, okay, so that's what's going on. Right? But it's like I save, and then the game crashes, and then I try to load it, and the game crashes again, and then I try to load the game, and it like crashes while I'm trying to load. And so like 20 minutes later, I finally get the game to go, and I go back in that battle, and there was like another thing that I should have been aware of that I was not the first time. So then I got to do the whole fucking like rodeo again to get this thing loaded up, and that is why it's there. So the game works when it's working. It was fun to play. Is the thing I gotta say. It's just that you gotta be able to like you gotta be able to like save and load the fucking game, and I could not, and so therefore it was like unplayable without cheating. And then I'm cheating, and the story is just not altogether worth it. The first game had a much better story in my opinion. It just like made more sense and was more coherent. And then the second story is just like, what if humans were there also? Let's see what happens. It's like an alternative history, if you will. And it was just like not as good. And storylines like didn't end. They just like ended, and there was like, okay, I don't feel like the resolution was purely set up. Like it didn't make any sense. So Morrowind 2, I'm gonna say, is worse, even though it adds like quote unquote more factions. You get like one more choice of faction, and they're slightly more different this time around, but still. Dun, 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 dun. Number 2, second worst thing I involved myself in all year was Night at the Windmill. So Night at the Windmill is a point-and-click adventure game, and it is the barest of bones of that. And it's not interesting at all. And it's got this like quote-unquote mystery story that a child could figure out virtually within the first room you're in. And so it's got this person, a woman, who like wakes up, and there's like blood and I think a dead body in the first room. There might be in the second room, and she's just confused where she is, where she comes from. And the twist is that she has some sort of like amnesia or something, or like she can't like store long-term memories for some reason or whatever, and that they were taking her to like and then she like freaks out and attacks people, and she's like super strong, I guess, for like a waif, like a child waif, like this tiny little girl. And so then they crash this ambulance into this like windmill, and they go inside to like give her drugs to calm down, and she ends up killing like the 2 doctors. And then the driver of the ambulance, you play as her, and then you play as driver of the ambulance, and then you can decide to like kill that guy too and wander off, or just wander off, or go with him to continue your like medication treatment or whatever. And there's the point and click stuff is like you can't fail it. You literally just go like there's like 2 or 3 rooms and that's it. And the visuals are bad. They're not bad. It's just the art style I did not like at all. Everybody's got like purple skin for some reason, and it's not like it's like hand drawn, but it's hand drawn like I don't know. It just I did not enjoy it, and the story wasn't good. The art wasn't good. I'm like, what is happening here? It wasn't like interesting. Nothing like it wasn't like fascinating to reveal. I didn't feel like. I just felt like completely unengaged the whole time I was playing it. I think it took me 30 minutes to get through the whole thing, and it's just like, wow, that was not good. Like. And like it's hard to be like too harsh in my soul because it's like I'm sure a small independent like group of like 1 or 2 people made this thing, and it's like, hey, you made a functioning game, congratulations, you put a story together that you wanted to put together. I just like, but why this story? Like what is this? Like how many people have like this disorder they like reference in this? Like nobody. So it's like it's not relatable. It's like okay, I guess that's the way to look at it. Like there's people have done much more interesting things with like Psychosis through like Alice, the American McGee's Alice, for example, or what's that fucking thing called? Susuna's Revenge or whatever. Hellblade, that's what it's called. So I just feel like there was like a era for a couple years where it's like making games with like people with mental disorders was like the hot shit for some reason, and I feel like most of them are pretty bad. This is not an exception to that rule. Dun 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 dun! All right, we're finally there. Number 1 worst thing I involved myself with all year long was 24H, and it is legitimately not a good game. It is. I don't know what the fuck was going on in this thing, like for real. Like, and it's not one of those things where it's like I played another game that was kind of similar. It's like 11F, and it was the same kind of like horror, but it's not as horrifying as it is just like bizarre and confusing what's going on. But that game had like a lot of like kind of like artistic merit to it, I would say. Like they did some interesting stuff with the setup and with different kind of things, and it was still kind of bad, but it was honestly like I was like, well, I still played it, and there's a couple things like stuck with me. Like there's a scene with this ballerina that like is haunting, and it haunts me to this day. And I'm like, it's not that bad if I'm like thinking about it. It's not. I mean, thinking about it, half of it's like that was stupid, and the other half's like that's pretty good. It's just like that's not a very good game. But 24H, it's like I can't think of a single thing in that game that I was like that was pretty well done, because it's like they have these systems, and I'm trying to interact with the systems of the game, and it would just not let me. Like straight up, like you'd get these quests, and you have to do like quests every day, and if you can do all the quests for like 7 days, then you win. If you don't, you just like die. But the quests are like you have to pretty much play through the game and fail, and then play through it again. And I was like, that was not fun to play through the first time. Why would I play through it again to get like whatever bizarro ending? And I'm still gonna probably fuck it up because you have to keep like. You know, I'd have to have a notebook with like, okay, I have to do this quest at this time at this day over here, and then don't do it early, because if you do it early, then you can't do it later. And if you do that early, or if you mess that up, then you can't do it again later. Or if you do this day, you also have to do this other thing. And it's like, this is not fun. And it's not easy to like restart, right? So it's not like it's like, oh, I made a mistake, I'll just go back to the beginning of that day and not do that. And it's like, no, you cannot save and go back to the next. You have to keep pressing forward. And then there's like a thing with the ghost in the basement. There's a thing with like a creepy lady next door who you're supposed to spy on. There's like people at work you're supposed to kill. And then there's like a whole online like Second Life part of the game that I interacted with one time and was like, I don't know what the fuck this is supposed to be about, but I am not enjoying it. And then there's like these weird mini games that you can have these nightmares. And one of them's like zombies from Call of Duty. And then one of them's just like you walk back and forth and things change. But it's very arbitrary, it seems. And that's my thing. I'm sure there's like triggers that are not arbitrary, but it's like when your game, when I'm trying to interact with your game and the way you've set it up, and things just appear as if they're just like fucking thrown in there, like thrown in a blender, and it's like fucking figure it out. Then it's like your game's not good. You did not design this game in a way that I can like figure it out without having to like a guide or having to like play it multiple times to examine how you set this thing up. And that's not good game design. That's shitty game design. Like you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Like, it's like very amateurish. And it upset me, and it upsets me thinking about it now because it was such a waste of my fucking time. Because I was like, okay, this seems kind of interesting. And it was like, there's no point. Nothing really happened. You could like fuck up your run, essentially. It's like a fucking roguelike game. You could fuck up your run just by happenstance, right? It's not like I was like, oh, my skill failed me, or like, oh, I should have paid attention to this. It's like, all right, I'm doing everything you asked me to do, game. I'm like paying attention to everything you've taught me, and then I do something, and it's like, well, now you fucked up. And I was like, what? How? Like, there's literally a thing where it's like, watch this moment for a minute, and it's like, okay, that's my quest for the day. So in this like weird murder game on the phone, so I sit there and I watch it for a minute, and then it's like, you failed, and I was like, okay. Like, fair. I can't. And then I honestly, I went back, and so like after I beat the game, I was like, oh, I'm gonna try this again. And so I tried it again, and I failed it again. And I was like, I don't know what the fuck you want me to do. I'm literally staring at her the whole fucking time, like you asked, and I'm doing exactly what you said. So like, is there something else I'm supposed to just like figure out by paying attention to what? Like, you're not giving me anything else to work with, like, you piece of shit. And that was like most of it. Like the ghost quest in the basement, I was doing that, and I thought I was doing everything I needed to do that, and I failed that. I felt like everything in this game. And yeah, maybe I just don't get it. Maybe I'm the retard. That's fine. But I interacted with your game, honestly, and you fucking threw it back in my face, so go fuck yourself. Hands down, the worst thing I played all day. And just honestly, bad game. No redeeming qualities whatsoever. I guess it works. It's got that over Warwind. But yeah, so those are my top 5 worst things that I interacted with this year. Go ahead, like, share, subscribe, comment, and next week will be the best things and a little announcement for my channel. All right, cool. Catch y'all later.